the next one, you'll turn to it, right?
I'm with you.
Okay. Now, sometimes maybe my words won't be like these words.
It's okay.
No, I'll try to stick to the text. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
The genius of the crowd. There is enough treachery, hatred, violence, absurdity in the average human being to supply any given army on any given day. And the best at murder are those who preach against it. And the best at hate are those who preach love. And the best at war, finally, are those who preach peace. Those who preach God need God. Those who preach peace do not have peace. Those who preach peace do not have love. Beware the preachers, beware the knowers. Beware those who are always reading books. Beware those who either detest poverty or are proud of it. Beware those quick to praise, for they need praise in return. Beware those quick to censure. They are afraid of what they do not know. Beware those who seek constant crowds. They are nothing alone. Beware the average man, the average woman. Beware their love. Their love is average, seeks average. But there is genius in their hatred. There's enough genius in their hatred to kill you, to kill anybody. Not wanting solitude, not understanding solitude, they will attempt to destroy anything that differs from their own. Not being able to create art, they will not understand art. They will consider their failure as creators only as a failure of the world. Not being able to love fully, they will believe your love incomplete, and then they will hate you. And their hatred will be perfect, like a shining diamond, like a knife, like a mountain, like a tiger, like hemlock, their finest art. Consummation of Grief. I even hear the mountains, the way they laugh, up and down their blue sides. And down in the water, the fish cry, and all the water is their tears. I listen to the water on nights I drink away, and the sadness becomes so great. I hear it in my clock. It becomes knobs upon my dresser. It becomes paper on the floor. It becomes a shoehorn, a laundry ticket. It becomes cigarette smoke climbing a chapel of dark vines. It matters little. Very little love is not so bad, or very little life. What counts is waiting on walls. I was born for this. I was born to hustle roses down the avenues of the dead. The poetry reading. At high noon at a small college near the beach, sober, the sweat running down my arms, a spot of sweat on the table. I flatten it with my finger. Blood money, blood money. My God, they must think I love this like the others. But it's for bread and beer and rent. Blood money. I'm tense, lousy, feel bad. Poor people, I'm failing. A woman gets up, walks out, slams the door. A dirty poem. Somebody told me not to read dirty poems here. It's too late. My eyes can't see some lines. I read it out. Desperate, trembling, lousy. They can't hear my voice, and I say, I quit. That's it. I'm finished. And later in my room, there's scotch and beer, the blood of a coward. This then will be my destiny, scrabbling for pennies in dark, tiny halls, reading poems I've long since become tired of. And I used to think that men who drove buses or cleaned out latrines or murdered men in alleys were fools. Okay?
It was terrific.
All right.
That was great.
I felt behind that one.
That was great.
Makes me think of tonight. Now. I'm such a spoiled old toad, Jesus Christ. I should complain. 2 actors in the driveway, a swimming pool. I'm bitching like an old. Oh, well. Mm-hmm. Oh, 370?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Short order. I took my girlfriend to your last poetry reading, she said. Yes, I asked. She's young and pretty, she said. And I asked. She hated your guts. Then she stretched out on the couch and pulled off her boots. I don't have very good legs, she said. All right, I thought. I don't have very good poetry. She doesn't have very good legs. Scramble 2. The soldier, his wife, and the bum. I was a bum in San Francisco, but once managed to go to a symphony concert, along with the well-dressed people. And the music was good, but something about the audience was not. And something about the orchestra and the conductor was not. Although the building was fine and the acoustics perfect, I preferred to listen to the music alone on my radio. And afterwards, I did go back to my room and I turned on the radio. But there was a pounding on the wall. Shut that goddamn thing off! There was a soldier in the next room living with his wife, and soon he'd be going over there to protect me from Hitler. So I snapped the radio off, and then I'd heard his wife say, "You shouldn't have done that." And the soldier said, "Fuck that guy," which I thought was a very nice thing for him to tell his wife to do. Of course, she never did. Anyhow, I never went to another live concert, and that night I listened to the radio very quietly, my ear pressed to the speaker. War has its price, and peace never lasts, and millions of young men everywhere would die. And as I listened to the classical music, I heard them making love, desperately and mournfully, through Shostakovich, Brahms, Mozart, through crescendo and climax, and through the shared walls of our darkness. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. The most. Here comes the fish head singing. Here comes the baked potato and drag. Here comes nothing to do all day long. Here comes another night of no sleep. Here comes the phone ringing the wrong tone. Here comes a termite with a banjo. Here comes a flagpole with blank eyes. Here comes a cat and dog wearing nylons. Here comes a machine gun singing. Here comes bacon burning in the pan. Here comes a voice saying something dull. Here comes a newspaper stuffed with small red birds with flat brown beaks. Here comes a cunt carrying a torch, a grenade, a deathly love. Here comes victory carrying one bucket of blood and stumbling over the berry bush. And the sheets hang out the windows. And the bombers head east, west, north, south, get lost, get tossed like salad. as all the fish in the sea line up and form one line, one long line, one very long thin line, the longest line you could ever imagine. And we get lost walking past purple mountains. We walk lost, bare at last like the knife, having given, having spit it out like an unexpected olive seed. As the girl at the call service screams over the phone, "Don't call back, you sound like a jerk." The proud, thin dying. I see old people on pensions in the supermarkets, and they are thin, and they are proud, and they are dying. They're starving on their feet and saying nothing. Long ago, among other lies, they were taught that silence was bravery. Now, having worked a lifetime, inflation has trapped them. They look around, steal a grape, chew on it. Finally, they make a tiny purchase, a day's worth. Another lie they were taught, "Thou shalt not steal." They'd rather starve than steal. One grape won't save them. And in tiny rooms while reading the market ads, they'll starve. They'll die without a sound, pulled out of rooming houses by young blonde boys with long hair, who slide them in and pull away from the curb. These boys, handsome of eye, thinking of Vegas and pussy and victory. It's the order of things. Each one gets a taste of honey, then the knife.
Terrific.
Okay.
Wow, well done. Jeez.
Like, you know, they wanted me to do 5 hours. I'd be completely crazy. I just don't love my stuff that much. I'm more, you know what I'm interested in? What I'm going to type tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that interests me. The next poem, the next fucking line. What's past is past. I don't want to linger over it and read it and play with it and jolly it up. It's gone. It's done.
But what about things like post office or women? Do you ever
That's
look back?
gone. No, that's gone. It's over. The writing itself is the release. It's the victory. That's all that. If you can't write the next line, well, you're dead. The past doesn't matter.
And you're still writing every night, huh?
Not every night. 3 or 4 out of 7. If I don't get those in, I don't act right. I feel sick. I get very depressed. It's a release. It's a release. It's my psychiatrist letting this shit out. So, it's lucky I get paid for it. I do it for nothing. In fact, I'd pay to do it. You know, the writer. I'd pay people to. Here, I'll give you $10,000 a year if you let me write.
But for years, you weren't paid to write.
No, hell no.
I mean, how long? You worked at the post office 15, 18 years.
No, I quit at the age of 50, yeah.
That was the second time you went back?
Well, you see, I was a carrier and a clerk. Yeah, I quit as a clerk. One night I walked out, and it was pretty chilly. As I was leaving the last night, the guy said, "That old man's got to be crazy quitting a good job like this. What's he going to do?" Another guy said, "God, I don't know. What's he doing? He's lost his mind." No, he didn't say he lost his mind. He's not thinking right. I walked out of that building toward my car down a long, dark street, and I thought, Jesus, maybe they're right. But I didn't give a damn. I was ready to go down to Skid Row. I was tired of it all. Screw it. Fan letter. I've been reading you for a long time now. I just put Billy Boy to bed. He got 7 mean ticks from somewhere. I got 2. My husband Benny, he got 3. Some of us love bugs, others hate them. Benny writes poems. He was in the same magazine as you once. Benny is the world's greatest writer, but he got this temper. He gave a reading once and somebody laughed at one of his serious poems, and Benny took out his thing out right there and pissed on stage. He says you write good, but you couldn't carry his balls in a paper bag. Anyway, I made a big pot of marmalade tonight. We all just love marmalade here. Benny lost his job yesterday. He told his boss to stick it up his ass. But I still got my job down at the manicure shop. You know fags come in to get their nails done? You aren't a fag, are you, Mr. Chinaski? Anyhow, I just felt like writing you. Your books are read and read around here. Benny says you're an old fart. You write pretty good, but you couldn't carry his balls in a paper sack. Do you like bugs, Mr. Chinaski? I think the marmalade is cool enough to eat now. So goodbye, Dora. Luck. Once we were young at this machine, drinking, smoking, typing. It was a most splendid, miraculous time. Still is. Only now, instead of moving toward time, it moves toward us. Makes each word drill into the paper. Clear, fast, hard, feeding a closing space. Yeah, they say I'm good with dialogue. I've lived a lot. I've heard enough fucking conversations. I ought to be.
Well, your ear is uncanny for American speech. You have that flat patter down.
Yeah. Factory workers and all that.
Well, the people that never get written about.
I was blessed with a crappy life, that's all. Crappy life to write about. Was really lucky, you know. You know, a lot of writers that get famous when they're 22, 23, and then they're in the literary world, they're going to cocktail parties, and nothing's happening but that. So they miss out on the manure pile. So anyhow.
And you kept trying to leave Los Angeles.
Yeah, I kept coming back.
Why'd you keep trying to leave? You're always heading out, right?
I don't know. You know, for a while, there's always the dream you're going to hit a city that's different than the others. That's just stupid. You're going to meet different people a different way. Each city is a little bit different, but not that much. It's populated by people, that's all. So there's not much you can do. So I got tired of looking, and I came back, and here I am, reading for Harper Collins. Is that it, or Collins Harper?
You always wrote about Los Angeles in a way that seemed to be more accurate than what Chandler did.
Yeah, well, Chandler, I think, you know, he mentions Sunset Boulevard or something. I think it's more of a flash thing, a kind of an LA flash, you know. I think I get the people of LA in there more, you know. But I shouldn't say that. But I should. This is where I've been, so.
But you always seem to have captured the sense of space between people in this town. The kind of a loneliness, a physical loneliness that happens here.
But if I do, it's not a deliberate thing. It just happens as I write it down. I don't know what I'm doing, you know. But I think, for some reason, I'm not really in with the in boys, you know. I think my writing is really pretty fucking powerful stuff. But I think after I'm dead and safe, they're going to trot me out. I'm going to really be discovered, you know. Bukowski, it's going to be sickening. But right now, I like it this way, kind of quiet. And, Of course, this reader thing may spoil things, but what the hell? I can be spoiled a little, right? Okay.
Well, you always seem to be like a prophet of decency.
You trying to ruin my sales?
Beautiful.
Trying to ruin my
no,
book?
that's so true. That's such a beautiful thing to
decency.
say. That's so true that he said that. Not many people would say that. It's very, very true.
I don't know what I am. I'm going to the bathroom.
Go quick on this.
Okay. Are you drinking? Washed up on shore, the old yellow notebook out again. I write from the bed as I did last year. We'll see the doctor Monday. Yes, doctor, weak legs, vertigo, headaches, and my back hurts. Are you drinking, he will ask? Are you getting your exercise, your vitamins? I think that I am just ill with life, the same stale, fluctuating factors. Even at the track, I watch the horses run by, and it seems meaningless. I leave early after buying tickets on the remaining races. Taking off, the mutual clerk asks. Yes, it's boring, I tell him. If you think it's boring out there, he tells me, you ought to be back here. So here I am, propped against my pillows again. Just an old guy, just an old writer with a yellow notebook. Something is walking across the floor toward me. Oh, it's just my cat. This time. You know, and I know, and thee know. That as a yellow shade rips, as the cat leaps wild-eyed, as the old bartender leans on the wood, as the hummingbird sleeps, you know, and I know, and thee know. As the tanks practice on false battlefields, as your tires work the freeway, as a midget drunk on cheap bourbon cries alone at night, as the bulls are carefully bred for the matadors, as the grass watches you and the trees watch you, as the sea holds creatures vast and true, you know and I know and thee know, the sadness and the glory of two slippers under a bed, the ballet of your heart dancing with your blood, young girls of love who will someday hate their mirrors, overtime in hell, lunch with sick salad, you know and I know and thee know, the end as we know it now, it seems such a lousy trick after the lousy agony, but you know and I know and thee know, the joy that sometimes comes along out of nowhere, rising like a falcon moon across the impossibility. You know and I know and thee know, the cross-eyed craziness of total elation. We know that we have finally not been cheated. You know and I know and thee know, as we look at our hands, our feet, our lives, our way, the sleeping hummingbird, the murdered dead of armies, the sun that eats you as you face it. You know and I know and thee know, we will defeat death. The first thing I remember is being under something. It was a table. I saw a table leg. I saw the legs of people and a portion of the tablecloth hanging down. It was dark under there. I liked being under there. It must have been in Germany. I must have been between 1 and 2 years old. It was 1922. I felt good under the table. Nobody seemed to know I was there. There was sunlight upon the rug and on the legs of the people. I liked the sunlight. The legs of the people were not interesting, not like the tablecloth which hung down, not like the table leg, not like the sunlight. Then there is nothing, then a Christmas tree, candles, bird ornaments, birds with small berry branches in their beaks, a star, two large people fighting, screaming, people eating, always people eating. I ate too. My spoon was bent, so that if I wanted to eat, I had to pick up the spoon with my right hand. If I picked it up with my left hand, the spoon bent away from my mouth. I wanted to pick up the spoon with my left hand. Two people, one larger with curly hair, a big nose, a big mouth, much eyebrow. The larger person always seeming to be angry, often screaming. The smaller person quiet, round of face, paler, with large eyes. I was afraid of both of them. Sometimes there was a third, a fat one, who wore dresses with lace at the throat. She wore a large brooch and had many warts on her face, with little hairs growing out of them. Emily, they called her. These people didn't seem happy together. Emily was the grandmother, my father's mother. My father's name was Henry. My mother's name was Catherine. I never spoke to them by name. I was Henry Jr. These people spoke German most of the time, and in the beginning, I did too. The first thing I remember my grandmother saying was, "I will bury all of you." She said this the first time just before we began eating a meal, and she used to say it many times after that, just before we began to eat. Everything seemed very important. We ate mashed potatoes and gravy, especially on Sundays. We also ate roast beef, knockwurst, and sauerkraut, green beans, rhubarb, carrots, spinach, string beans, chicken, meatballs, and spaghetti, sometimes mixed with raviola. There were boiled onions, asparagus, and every Sunday there was strawberry shortcake with vanilla ice cream. For breakfast we had French toast and sausages, or there were hot cakes or waffles with bacon and scrambled eggs on the side. And there was always coffee. But what I remember best of all were the mashed potatoes and gravy, and my grandmother Emily saying, "I will bury all of you." She visited us often after we came to America, taking the red trolley in from Pasadena to Los Angeles. We only went to see her occasionally, driving out in the Model T Ford. I liked my grandmother's house. It was a small house under an overhanging mass of pepper trees. Emily had all her canaries in different cages. I remember one visit best. That evening she went about covering the cages with white hoods so the birds could sleep. The people sat in chairs and talked. There was a piano, and I sat at the piano and hit the keys and listened to the sounds as the people talked. I liked the sound of the keys best up at one end of the piano, where there was hardly any song at all. The sound the keys made was like chips of ice striking against one another. "Will you stop that?" my father said loudly. "Let the boy play the piano," said my grandmother. My mother smiled. "That boy," said my grandmother, "when I tried to pick him up out of the cradle to kiss him, he reached up and hit me in the nose." They talked some more, and I went on playing the piano. "Why don't you get that thing tuned?" asked my father. Anything else?
Oh, I'd love to have you read some poems. They're my favorites.
Well, let me see. Maybe if I'm not too sick of them.
But I mean, that's always been a knockout to me.
To me, it was just the opening of the novel. I had to set the ground.
Oh, that was, it was
We'll start off well then.
Yeah, it's a great it's a great piece of writing.
Somebody said they liked the way it started out. Post office. It began as a mistake.
I don't know if I can persuade you to read The Rain.
Oh,
We ain't got no money, honey, but we got rain.
It's not that long.
It isn't long.
Can I look at it?
It's like about 6 pages, but it's
6 pages.
But it's one of the wonderful poems of all time.
Okay. But then we should call it on this one, I think.
You had that wonderful story where you wrote about the Hoover's visit to Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And then you realized that you were telling lies.
Yeah. That was one of the few times I did a little bit of lying. That was, somebody asked me, when did you first know you were a writer? And that was when this teacher asked us all to write about President Hoover's visit to the Coliseum. Mm-hmm. So I pretended I'd been there, and I wrote the whole thing. What happened, how he came in the motorcade, how the people cheered, and the Secret Service agents surrounded him, and the sun came down. Even the birds seemed to know he was there, and they flew around, and really loaded on the bullshit. So the teacher said, "Oh, class, I want to read you this, submitted by Henry." I said, "What?" She got up and she read. All the little girls looked at me, and the guy said, we knew there was something wrong with him. So that was the first inkling that there was a seed in there somewhere.
You made it all up.
I was told this bullshit story about the president. I had no interest in him at all. And so there was a writer's seed in me early there somewhere. For some reason, it was there. My favorite story, we went back to Paris and we're eating in kind of an outdoor area.
It was in Nice.
And, it was in Nice? Mm-hmm. Oh. And a waiter came out from the next eating place down. He said, "Are you Charles Bukowski?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Will you wait a moment, please?" And he went and he got 6 other waiters, and they all lined up, and then they bowed like that. I said, "Thank you very much." And I just filed away and disappeared. That was a cheap thrill. I mean, that was inventiveness. I like that.
Yeah.
Class.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what's it like in Germany, where were they?
He was like a Beatle. He was like Bob Dylan to somebody. We go to the cleaners.
Brush you on the street.
Following him all over.
Sign this. Bukowski, you're Bukowski. Well, should I have a beer to read this one?
Oh, it should be fun.
Oh, this one's full. I say. Just had an eye operation. Well, this is a long...
Put my earphones and get ready over here.
Remember, this one's your fault.
Okay, I'm set. Oh, I like the rain.
All right. We ain't got no money, honey, but we got rain. Call it the greenhouse effect or whatever, but it just doesn't rain like it used to. I particularly remember the rains of the Depression era. There wasn't any money, but there was plenty of rain. It wouldn't rain just for a night or a day. It would rain for 7 days and 7 nights. And in Los Angeles, the storm drains weren't built to carry off that much water. And the rain came down thick and mean and steady, and you heard it banging against the roofs and into the ground. Waterfalls of it came down from the roofs. And there was hail, big rocks of ice, bombing, exploding, smashing into things. And the rain just wouldn't stop. And all the roofs leaked. Dishpans, cooking pans were placed all about. They dripped badly, had to be emptied again and again. The rain came up over the street curbings, across the lawns, climbed the steps, and entered the houses. There were mops and bathroom towels, and the rain often came up through the toilets, bubbling, brown, crazy, whirling, and the old cars stood in the streets, cars that had problems starting on a sunny day. And the jobless men stood looking out the windows at the old machines dying like living things out there. The jobless men, failures in a failing time, were imprisoned in their houses with their wives and children and their pets. The pets refused to go out and left their waste in strange places. The jobless men went mad, confined with their once beautiful wives. There were terrible arguments as notice of foreclosure fell into the mailbox. Rain and hail, cans of beans, bread without butter, fried eggs, boiled eggs, poached eggs, peanut butter sandwiches, and an invisible chicken in every pot. My father, never a good man at best, beat my mother when it rained, as I threw myself between them, the legs, the knees, the screams, until they separated. "I'll kill you," I screamed at him. "You hit her again and I'll kill you. Get that son of a bitchin' kid out of here. No, Henry, you stay with your mother." All the households were under siege, but I believe that ours held more terror than the average. And at night, as we attempted to sleep, the rain still came down, and it was in bed in the dark, watching the moon against the scarred window so bravely holding out most of the rain. I thought of Noah and the ark, and I thought, it has come again. We all thought that. And then at once it would stop, and it always seemed to stop around 5 or 6 a.m., peaceful then, but not an exact silence because things continued to drip, drip, drip. And there was no smog then, and by 8 a.m. there was a blazing yellow sunlight, Van Gogh yellow, crazy, blinding. And then the roof drains, relieved of the rush of water, began to expand in the warmth. Pang, pang, pang. And everybody got up and looked outside, and there were all the lawns still soaked, greener than green will ever be. And there were the birds on the lawn, chirping like mad. They hadn't eaten decently for 7 days and 7 nights, and they were weary of berries. And they waited as the worms rose to the top, half-drowned worms. The birds plucked them up and gobbled them down. There were blackbirds and sparrows. The blackbirds tried to drive the sparrows off, but the sparrows, maddened with hunger, smaller and quicker, got their due. The men stood on their porches, smoking cigarettes, now knowing they'd have to go out there, to look for a job that probably wasn't there, to start that car that probably wouldn't start. And the once beautiful wives stood in their bathrooms, combing their hair, applying makeup, trying to put the world back together again, trying to forget that awful sadness that gripped them, wondering what they would fix for breakfast. And on the radio we were told that school was now open. And soon there I was on the way to school, massive puddles in the street, and the sun like a new world. My parents back in that house. I arrived at my classroom on time. Mrs. Sorensen greeted us with, "We won't have our usual recess. The grounds are too wet." "Ah," most of the boys went. But we're going to do something special at recess, she went on, and it will be fun. Well, we all wondered what that would be. And the 2-hour wait seemed a long time as Mrs. Sorensen went about teaching her lessons. I looked at the little girls. They all looked so pretty and clean and alert. They sat still and straight, and their hair was beautiful in the California sunshine. Then the recess bell rang, and we all waited for the fun. Then Mrs. Sorensen told us, "Now, what we're going to do is we're going to tell each other what we did during the rainstorm. We'll begin in the front row and go right around. Now, Michael, you're first." Well, we all began to tell our stories. Michael began, and it went on, and soon we realized that we were all lying. Not exactly lying, but mostly lying. And some of the boys began to snicker, and some of the girls began to give them dirty looks. And Mrs. Sorensen said, "All right, I demand a modicum of silence here. I am interested in what you did during the rainstorm, even if you're not." So we had to tell our stories, and they were stories. One girl said when the rainbow first came, she saw God's face at the end of it. Only she didn't say which end. One boy said he stuck his fishing pole out the window and caught a little fish and fed it to his cat. Almost everybody told a lie. The truth was just too awful and embarrassing to tell. Then the bell rang and recess was over. "Thank you," said Mrs. Sorensen. "That was very nice. And tomorrow the grounds will be dry and we will put them to use again." Most of the boys cheered, and the little girls sat very straight and still, looking so pretty and clean and alert, their hair beautiful, in a sunshine the world might never see again. Okay?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh,
Thank you.
La, la.
You're
That's a
welcome.
wonderful.
Oh, aren't you glad you read that?
Okay, well, just to,
Was it a
for
little
my
strange
friend.
to go back there?
Yeah, I got it all
Did you
back
get?
again.
Did you
Did
get
you?
back in
I
there?
felt it. Yeah.
Did you remember?
Yeah.
You read it like you felt it.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right.
Uh,
I quit.